Taekook fan fiction. The Wealthy Handsome Bachelor and the Hot Producer Part 2? Are you ready? Let's start. The show was designed to create sparks. Every date, every interaction, every glass of champagne was planned with one goal: to make Kim Taehyung fall in love on camera. But after a week of filming, it was obvious to Jungkook that something wasn't working. The women were dazzling: models, actresses, influencers, each chosen for their charm and appeal. Yet whenever Taehyung smiled at them, it didn't quite reach his eyes. Whenever they touched his hand, his fingers twitched as if resisting. And worst of all, Taehyung's gaze wandered, always toward him. Jungkook tried to stay professional. He told himself that Taehyung was just another bachelor, just another season. But each time he saw Taehyung's attention flicker his way, each time he noticed the faint smirk Taehyung hid when their eyes met, it chipped away at his control. And now the hot tub scene loomed. It was a staple of the show: one bachelor, two contestants, and an intimate setup under moonlight. Champagne, laughter, playful splashing, all captured in high definition for the audience to swoon over. It was supposed to sell romance. But Jungkook hated it. The thought of Taehyung half-naked in a steaming pool, smiling at women who weren't him, was unbearable. That evening, crew members bustled around the backyard, stringing fairy lights above the bubbling hot tub. The two chosen contestants, Raina, a graceful actress, and Haein, a bold influencer, giggled excitedly as they slipped into designer swimsuits and silk robes provided by wardrobe. Taehyung arrived in a robe as well, his hair slightly tousled, his skin glowing under the soft lights. He looked like perfection incarnate, and Jungkook's chest tightened painfully. "Okay," one of the assistant producers said, "cameras ready? Let's get them in the water." Jungkook's jaw clenched. "No." The crew froze. "Sir?" Jungkook masked his tone with forced calm. "Not yet. The lighting isn't balanced. Move the key light 2 meters to the left. We'll delay the scene." The assistants scrambled to obey, though the lighting was already flawless. Taehyung arched a brow at Jungkook from across the set. He wasn't fooled. A ghost of a smile tugged at his lips as if silently saying, "Jealous, aren't you?" Eventually, Jungkook couldn't stall any longer. The cameras rolled. Raina and Haein slid into the steaming water first, laughing sweetly, gesturing for Taehyung to join. Taehyung removed his robe and stepped in. His broad shoulders and toned chest drew audible sighs from the crew, though Jungkook quickly glared at anyone who stared too long. The women crowded closer, one offering him champagne, the other brushing her hand along his arm. They leaned in, their laughter high-pitched, their touches lingering. Jungkook's grip on his clipboard tightened until his knuckles turned white. He couldn't look away, but every second felt like torture. When Haein tried to slide onto Taehyung's lap playfully, Jungkook snapped. "Cut." His voice was sharp, echoing across the set. Everyone froze. The cameraman looked confused. "Sir, why?" "The angle is off," Jungkook barked. "Reset." Raina frowned. "But it was going well." "Reset." His tone left no room for argument. The women reluctantly moved back, their flirtation interrupted. Taehyung, however, leaned back against the hot tub wall, smirking slightly at Jungkook's obvious disruption. After the scene, once filming wrapped for the night, the contestants were escorted inside, giggling about their missed chance for the perfect moment. Taehyung lingered outside, drying his hair with a towel. He didn't have to wait long. Jungkook approached, his expression unreadable. "You can't keep doing that," Taehyung said softly, eyes glinting with amusement. "Doing what?" Jungkook asked too quickly. Sabotaging scenes. Taehyung stepped closer, lowering his voice. If you don't want me flirting with them, just say so. Jungkook's jaw tightened. This isn't about what I want. It's about the show. Really? Taehyung tilted his head, lips curving. Because it looked a lot like jealousy to me. For a split second, Jungkook's composure cracked. His eyes flickered with something raw, something hungry before he looked away. You should get inside, he muttered. It's cold. But as he turned to leave, Taehyung called out, his voice low but firm. Jungkook, stop pretending. You can't hide it from me. Their eyes met again, dark, charged, dangerous. And in that silence, Taehyung knew the truth. The jealousy wasn't one-sided. The evening was warm, the production crew buzzing quietly in the background as dozens of cameras were readied for one of the most crucial episodes of The Bachelor. Tonight was supposed to be one of the show's iconic romantic hot tub scenes, where the lead bachelor, Kim Taehyung, would relax with a carefully chosen contestant and let sparks fly. The producers had set the stage beautifully. Fairy lights twinkled around the steaming tub, champagne flutes sat on a tray, and the night air carried the faint smell of roses. To anyone watching through the lens, it was perfect. To Jungkook, however, it was torture. He stood a few meters back, headset clutched too tightly in his hand as he directed camera angles. His jaw flexed every time Taehyung smiled at one of the women, every time her manicured hand brushed against his. Jungkook was supposed to be the professional here, cool, collected, detached. But the sight of Taehyung's bare shoulders glistening under the lights, his laughter echoing warmly, made Jungkook's stomach twist with something dangerous. Taehyung lowered himself into the bubbling water, his dark hair slicked back, his sharp features made even more magnetic under the glow of the lights. The girl beside him, Hannah, a model chosen by the producers for her chemistry potential, leaned closer with a giggle. So Taehyung, she said, her voice sweet but calculated. You've got everything, wealth, looks, success. What are you really looking for in love? Taehyung tilted his head, lips curving into a smile that could melt anyone. Someone real? He answered softly. Not someone chasing what I have, but someone who sees me. His words were genuine, almost vulnerable, and it hit Jungkook like a punch to the chest. He wanted to shout that he saw Taehyung. That behind all the cameras and the glittering facade, Jungkook had been noticing every detail. The way Taehyung tapped his fingers when he was nervous, the way his laugh grew quieter when he was truly amused, the way his eyes dimmed at the mention of loneliness. Zoom in on their hands, one assistant whispered through Jungkook's earpiece. Jungkook clenched his teeth. Hannah had just reached for Taehyung's hand under the water. The bubbly giggle she let out wasn't genuine, and Jungkook could see Taehyung's polite discomfort. No, Jungkook barked, his voice sharper than intended. Stay on the wide shot. The cameraman hesitated. But the intimacy. Wide shot, Jungkook repeated, lower this time, laced with something almost threatening. The crew exchanged looks but obeyed. No one dared push Jungkook when he was in this mood. Taehyung, oblivious to the director's method, continued the conversation. Hannah leaned in even closer, her lips dangerously near Taehyung's ear. Cut this soon, Jungkook muttered under his breath, though no one had told him to. He adjusted his headset as though he had a technical excuse, but really his chest was tight, his blood humming with jealousy he could no longer contain. When Hannah shifted and pressed a little too close, Jungkook snapped. He strode forward from the shadows of the crew, voice louder than it should have been. All right, that's enough for this take. he called out, startling everyone. We've got what we need. Wrap it. Hannah blinked, confused. But we barely. Jungkook cut her off with a firm shake of his head. We'll pick up tomorrow. Lighting's not right anymore. Everyone knew the lighting was perfect. Taehyung's brows furrowed as he looked up at Jungkook. Their eyes locked across the steam and glittering set lights. Taehyung's questioning, Jungkook's burning with something he couldn't disguise anymore. For a split second. It wasn't the director and the Bachelor staring at each other, it was two men caught in a storm of unspoken desire. After the scene. As the crew left, Taehyung climbed out of the tub, water dripping down his toned frame. Towel draped loosely around his waist. He walked toward Jungkook, voice low enough not to be picked up by the mics. You cut it short, Taehyung said, his tone curious, almost amused. Why? It was going well. Jungkook swallowed hard, his throat dry. He forced his voice steady. It wasn't authentic. Taehyung raised an eyebrow. Or was it because you didn't like what you saw? The teasing edge in his words made Jungkook's pulse quicken. He opened his mouth to reply, but nothing came out. For the first time, Jungkook, the unshakable, confident director, was speechless. And Taehyung walked away with a small, knowing smile. The resort was quiet that night. Most of the crew had retired to their quarters, and the contestants were tucked away in their assigned rooms, chattering about roses and strategy. But Taehyung wasn't interested in any of them. His mind kept circling back to one man, the director who had cut the hot tub scene short, the one whose eyes had burned holes into him all night. Jungkook. After a long shower, steam still clinging to his skin, Taehyung slipped into a simple black robe, damp hair falling messily over his forehead. He dried his hands nervously on the fabric before padding barefoot down the hallway. His heart beat hard against his chest as he stopped in front of Jungkook's private suite. For a moment he hesitated. What if this ruined everything? What if Jungkook rejected him? But the memory of those jealous eyes, that sharp voice cutting into the chute, told him the truth. Jungkook already felt something. Taehyung raised his hand and knocked. The door opens. After a pause, the door swung open, and Taehyung's breath caught. Jungkook stood there fresh from his own shower, only a white towel hanging low on his hips. Droplets of water still trailed down his chest, highlighting the carved lines of muscle and the sharp V of his waist. His damp black hair stuck to his forehead, and his eyes widened in surprise at the sight of Taehyung. Taehyung? Jungkook's voice was rough, almost warning. What are you doing here? Taehyung swallowed, suddenly very aware of the thin robe barely covering his own body. We need to talk, he said softly. About tonight. Jungkook stepped back, silently allowing him in. The room smelled faintly of clean soap and cologne, warm from the lingering shower steam. As the door clicked shut, silence pressed between them. Jungkook leaned against the dresser, arms crossed, towel slipping slightly at his hip. His eyes were dark, stormy. You cut the scene short, Taehyung said, watching him closely. You couldn't even stand me sitting next to her. Jungkook's jaw tightened. She wasn't right for you. Taehyung took a step closer. Or was it because you're jealous? The word hung heavy in the air. Jungkook's nostrils flared, and something dangerous flickered across his face. Don't push me, Taehyung. His voice was low, warning. But Taehyung did. Another step forward, close enough now that their damp skin radiated heat between them. Then tell me why your eyes followed me all night. Tell me why you look at me like I belong to you when you're the one who put me here surrounded by women. In an instant, Jungkook snapped. He surged forward, grabbing Taehyung's wrist and pinning him back against the wall with a thud. Taehyung gasped, his robe slipping slightly open at the collar, baring his collarbone. Jungkook's chest pressed flush against his, towel still barely hanging on. His breath was hot against Taehyung's lips, voice shaking with the force of his confession. "You drive me insane," Jungkook growled. "Seeing you with them, hearing you laugh for them, it makes me want to rip the cameras apart. I can't hide it anymore, Taehyung. I'm jealous. I'm possessive. And I can't stand the thought of anyone else touching you." Taehyung's heart thundered in his ears. "Then stop pretending." That was all it took. Jungkook crushed his mouth to Taehyung's, a desperate, hungry kiss that tasted of heat and frustration. Taehyung moaned softly against his lips, fingers gripping Jungkook's wet shoulders as if anchoring himself. The kiss deepened, wild and breathless, Jungkook tilting his head to devour every inch of Taehyung's mouth. When they finally broke apart, panting, Jungkook rested his forehead against Taehyung's. "You're mine," Jungkook whispered, voice trembling with both fear and desire. "Not theirs. Not the cameras. Mine." Taehyung smiled faintly, brushing his lips over Jungkook's once more. "Then prove it." The air between them was still heavy after that earth-shattering kiss. Jungkook's hands remained braced against the wall, caging Taehyung in, his chest rising and falling as if he'd just run miles. Taehyung's lips were swollen from their kiss, his robe sliding slightly off one shoulder, but his eyes, soft, searching, were fixed only on Jungkook. "Say it again," Taehyung whispered, voice trembling. "That I'm yours." Jungkook closed his eyes briefly, exhaling shakily. "You are," he admitted, voice low and hoarse. "Every second I watch you smile at those women, I feel like I'm being torn apart." But, he forced himself to step back, raking a hand through his damp hair. "I can't ask you to stop. This is your choice, Taehyung. Your show. Your life. I can't be the selfish man who cages you, even if every part of me wants to." The words hurt him. He wanted nothing more than to lock Taehyung away from the cameras, from those fake smiles, from the greedy hands reaching toward him. But Jungkook wasn't just a man, he was the director. If he crossed the line too far, it could ruin everything. Taehyung stepped forward slowly, closing the distance Jungkook had created. He reached up, fingers brushing Jungkook's jaw gently, making the younger man flinch from the tenderness of it. "You think I care about the show?" Taehyung's voice was steady now, though his eyes glistened. "Every time one of them laughs too loudly, every time they pretend they're in love with me, I feel empty. Because the only person who sees me is you." To be continued. Thank you for watching. Last part coming soon. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Love you all.